Welcome back, folks. This is Shane. In today's video, we're coming to you from the wildly popular beach here of Lang Lang in Victoria, Australia, a beach I've never been to until today. I've driven past it like 3,000 times, but I finally decided to stop and it was well worth it. And while I'm only one of about 2 other people here, I thought it'd be a good opportunity to check out this awesome little Viltrox lens. This is their brand new AF 40mm F2.5 FE. So this can be used on full frame at 40mm, or if you want to use it on APS-C, it translates out to about 60mm, which is cool. Now, this is an autofocus affordable lens. We'll get into all of that in just a moment, but before we get into it, a huge thank you to the folks from Viltrox for sending this out. I've been lucky enough to test out a whole bunch of Viltrox lenses over the last couple of years, and if you want to see the full Sony E Mount playlist, I'll link it down in the description. You can check it out after this video. Let's get into it. At the time of filming, the Viltrox 40mm F2.5 comes in at 168 US dollars, or around 279 Australian dollars. And if you want to check this out, I'll link it down in the description box below. We're going to do a quick unboxing and then we'll take some photos, we'll shoot some video, and we'll see what the autofocus performance is like. All right, let's see what we get in the box here. All right, we get a warranty card, instruction manual. We got a little protective lens bag. Here's the lens. So this is the 40mm F2.5 FE, and yes, it's tiny, it's plastic, but it's nice and lightweight, and if you're doing any sort of travel work or handheld video work for extended periods of time, lighter is generally better. And when it comes to the lens size and overall build, Viltrox have a number of different lenses in this particular series, and this is the 20mm that I reviewed a little while ago, and the new 40mm is exactly the same when it comes to build quality, which is awesome. They feel identical when it comes to the focus ring. They have the same 52mm filter thread on the front, and everything is exactly the same, which is awesome. So this is a true consistent series of lenses. While this lens is small and lightweight, it does come at the sacrifice of not having a manual focus autofocus switch anywhere, and if you're used to that, sometimes it can take you a little while to adjust, so you'll need to use the controls on your camera to switch focusing modes. Much like the previous lenses I've reviewed from Viltrox, I have no problems with the lens hood here. It just snaps into place. We get a front lens cap and also a rear lens cap, which also houses the USB-C port over here, which is used to update the firmware. The process is nice and simple. All you have to do is connect this to your computer, download the new firmware, and drop the file into a folder that appears. That's it, or at least that's how it works on the Mac, so it's nice and simple. I haven't updated this as of shooting the video. It's on the current firmware as provided from Viltrox. Let's talk about 40mm as a focal length. Now, one of the cool things about it is people consider this to be the best everyday carry sort of focal length, or at least one of them. I would argue that 50mm is also right in that ballpark, but being that this is a little bit wider, it might be a little bit more versatile depending on your shooting scenario. So if you're doing street photography, a lot of folks really dig the 40mm field of view. For photography, this lens really excels. The images are nice and sharp, whether I'm shooting at f2.5 or all the way down at f16. It's really easy to blur out the background if you need to, or you can get extremely sharp results by stopping down anywhere past f2.5. The colors and contrast look great, and minus the fact it doesn't have the best minimum focusing distance, it's still a very good lens when it comes to its photographic performance. Check out the details here on the charcoal. Up next, we're going to try this lens for video. So I'll be switching over to my Sony FX3. We'll test the autofocus performance and check out how much shallow depth of field we can get. Now, I've shot the entire video so far on the FX30 with the 15mm f1.4 at f2.8, and I've got an ND filter on there as well. So I'll be putting the ND filter on here, and we'll see what kind of results we can get. So let's switch it over. All of this video footage is 100% ungraded. This is straight out of camera, and I love the results. So if you're a video shooter, wedding filmmaker, whatever the case may be, this lens will give you excellent, very cinematic looking results, as you can see on screen here. Let's do an autofocus test using the 40mm f2.5 at f2.5. So the sensitivity is set to 4 and the speed is set to 5, and this is with face and eye tracking, full area mode on with the variable ND. Now the light is all over the place today, so every shot will probably look different in terms of white balance, but we're gonna try our best here to see what the autofocus performance is like. It seems pretty snappy when it comes to eye detection. The focus peaking looks pretty good. If there's any issues with this, I'll comment on it when I get home, but so far, at least to my eye, looking at the LCD screen, it looks pretty good. Now, if I was to hold my hand up over my face, looks like it transitions over pretty nicely. Let's try fist. Looks like it's transitioned again. So very cool. It looks like it's going to be pretty responsive here. And of course you can change the speed and sensitivity options as well. I'm just going to jump out of shot really quick. Looks like it's to the background and back to the foreground. So it's doing a really great job. Now, if you're like me and you like to wear sunglasses because it's so glary, let's just do a quick test here as well. I think it's going to be fine. I mean, it's all up to the Sony autofocus system at this point, and this on the FX3 is fantastic. So yeah, it looks like it's doing a really great job. If you're someone who likes to set up a zone area box, for example, you can pull focus just by moving the camera and it will track whatever area is within that box, which is fantastic. And again, if you like to tap to focus, it also works almost just like a native prime lens. As you can see from this example, it's nice and snappy, nice and responsive, pulling focus between the tripod and my crappy little car. While this is a focus by wire lens, I had no trouble pulling focus repeatably from minimum to infinity focus and back. It works really well. The aperture range on this lens goes from f2.5 all the way down to f16 if you want a deeper depth of focus. So that's really great, but it does suffer from only having a 34 centimeter minimum focusing distance. So you can't get too far in on subjects close up. And I'll show you some examples of the closest I could get just shooting some scenes here at the beach. Just remember, these are all shot using the full frame sensor. And if you've got an APS-C camera of any description, it's going to give you a 1.5 times crop, so perceivably you'll get closer to the subject. But I have no problems with this. It's a small trade-off for a lens that's exceptional value. All right, let's talk about another use for this lens, and that's in the YouTube studio or some sort of scenario where you're doing a talking headshot. Now, I've got the camera just slightly further back than I would normally. I usually shoot with the Sony 35mm F1.5 Prime lens in this room, but this is a very good alternative and it looks almost every bit as good. Now, I've custom white balanced this particular lens because I don't just want to recall a preset because every lens is slightly different, but I'll give you a look at the 35mm f1.8 over the top of this footage, and then we'll go back to the 40mm f2.5, and I think in the studio here, I'm getting plenty of background blur. The colors and contrast all look okay, but I do have to raise the ISO just a little bit. It's up at 400 where it's usually set to about 320 normally. So yeah, it is a little bit slower, but I still think it's a really premium look here in the studio. And if you like to do stuff like this, it's going to work. And I've tested this a number of times already. I went to a second location to test out Chromatic Abberation, Sunstars, and Flaring, and it performed great. This lens actually has less chromatic aberration, or the one that I'm shooting with, than some of my far more expensive lenses. So it performs great there. Maybe the biggest limitation of this lens is only when it comes to sunburst or starburst effects. I wasn't able to get anything that really looked that pleasing to my eye, but you can be the judge for yourself. Flaring, again, is also kept to a minimum. So if you're a video shooter, this lens performs beautifully. All right, let's wrap this video up. I'm gonna give you my final thoughts on the Viltrox AF 40mm F2.5 FE full frame lens. This lens is incredible considering its price. It's an absolute bargain. And if you're on a budget and you wanna get this particular focal length, 40mm for full frame, it's a no-brainer. And if you're shooting APS-C and you want that 60mm equivalent, this will give you excellent results. The video quality looks awesome to my eye. That sort of moody stuff I shot outside was at a whole different range of f-stops, all done handheld with the Sony FX3, and the image quality just looked absolutely stunning. If someone had said, hey, that lens is this fancy, expensive video lens, I would have believed them because I think it looks really good. So I have no complaints with this. Minus the fact it doesn't have an autofocus manual focus switch, there's no aperture ring and all those kind of bells and whistles that come on a more expensive lens. I actually love the fact it's as small and compact as it is. It's about the same size as a micro 4/3 lens. Look at that, that is absolutely crazy. So yeah, full frame, Sony E Mount, plenty of great options. Let us know what you think. Thanks again for watching. My name's Shane and I will catch you on the next one. See ya.